to talk about how we got to this particular point as a nation and what Kenyans are supposed to do at this particular moment where they're facing harsh economic times. Many thanks indeed, Mr. Lameck, Orina, for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Irene, for having me tonight.
All right. Now, when we look into the issue of taxes that have been put in place in basic commodities, looking into the regime of the Jubilee government, we have seen an increase in each and every financial year. How did we get into this particular situation that now the common mwananchi is feeling a huge burden on themselves?
Thanks, Irene, for that question. First, I think where we are now is because of the global pandemic that we're experiencing throughout the world. The corona pandemic came into really hurt people everywhere in the world. The businesses, individuals are hurting in the equal measure. But as a country, I think it was a systematic progress of deteriorating economy. Although before that, in 2018, the World Bank had said that we were improving economic-wise, but the substance of having money in the people's pocket was not there. So the pandemic came and derailed that progress and made even the situation worse. Because since 2018 up to now, we have more poor people. More people cannot afford basic needs, as you said, food, shelter, and maybe education and health. So we are in a really dire situation. And I think it will take a momentous policy shift going forward to stabilize the economy. Currently, what we should be focusing in is on people getting the basic needs. We should be focusing more on health, because health is the primary thing as for now. Corona may not go away anytime soon. So we should be focusing how we can get vaccinated first, so that because a healthy population can be able to work more and produce for economy to peak again. Currently, we are, I can say, among the lowest points of the Kenyan history since the 2007-2008 crisis that brought prices up again. The corona has exposed the country, the weaklings of the country. So it will take some time to heal, but it's not impossible. We can heal. Yes.
Now, when we look into the budget and financing of the budget, it is a 3.6 trillion budget that was unveiled. And looking into the finance bill of 2021, it was aimed at funding that particular budget. Now, when the CS for Treasury, Ukuru Yatani, appeared before Parliament, of course, unveiling the budget, said that this particular budget will look into cushioning Kenyans due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, are we seeing double speak? Because if we're having basic commodities have an increase, and at the same time we want to cushion Kenyans from the COVID-19 pandemic, how are the two supposed to balance?
I can say the CS was saying what should be done and what is not happening, and not what is happening in the real sense. Because if you say you are making a budget for Kenyans to caution them from the pandemic or the effects of the pandemic, and at the same time you are taking more from them, and they don't have what you want to take more, I can say it's a double speak, but also from a more balanced view, I can say the government is in a dilemma, because they have to balance between saving the economy and also and helping the poor. Because as I said before, there are more poor people in the country currently than it was a year or two ago. So the budget must look into these two perspectives. Are they going to reduce taxes to help people, or are they going to balance to make sure that the economy is growing at a particular rate, at the same time trying to caution people? So it's a bit of a tricky balancing for the government. But also we are in this situation because I can say there was an improper planning. Because disasters are inevitable. In any country we have disasters. How are we prepared for this eventuality? Because you see in the US we have hurricanes, we have thunderstorms. They are prepared for that. So is it that because we are not used to experience so many disasters that we didn't have any plan? Because what we are doing now is reactionary.
Yeah.
In that situation that we are in this situation, what are we going to do? Let's tax more. Taxing more has never helped anyone in this in terms of economy. But I believe we can do something about it. We can have this situation of higher taxes for a while before the economy. After the economy stabilizes, then we can go back to relooking at our economy systems. That is taxes and economic growth policies that can be sustainable and that can help people grow the same rate at the economy. Because sometimes you can get a rate the economy is growing. You said our budget is 3.6 trillion.
Yeah.
But you can also find that we have more than 3 million people who cannot afford a basic meal a day. So what is the relevance of the economy growing if the citizen of a country cannot afford the basic needs? So as we're going into the future, we must look at growing the economy proportionally to the growing the welfare of the people. We must focus more on putting money into people's pockets. Rather than just having big buildings, big infrastructures without real money.
All right, that was my next question. And in the now could be 9 or 8 years of the Jubilee regime since 2013.
True.
When you look into the projects that they have invested in, because when you look into these huge budgets, some of the things that are invested in those particular budgets are development projects. Now, some economists have said that the Jubilee government have failed to invest on projects that will give returns in the short run. Most of them are in the long run, which include the SGR project and even the construction projects that you have seen in different parts of the country. Do you think they might have failed in planning out development projects that are, one, they're too ambitious, two, they don't give their return to the point that, to the extent that the common mwananchi can feel the effect?
I concur to some extent about the viability of the projects in the short run, because projects like SGR and the big road projects that's going on in the country may take time to bring back the returns or the investment money that was invested. And as you can realize, most of the money we're using for these big projects are borrowed money, loans, which are very expensive, commercial loans. So it is true that we should have balance between long-term projects and short-term projects that people can see. You see, this SGR may take even 20 to 30 years to see the fruits. It's not a bad project, but it's also not a right project at the same time. I think the government of Jubilee, which some of us supported, failed that because it's like having in the village, if you buy a Range Rover and you still don't have a house, it does not make sense. It's not wrong, but it's not right. So the timing of the project, maybe it's not a wrong thing, but also it's not right at the moment. For now, I think the focus should be on making sure that the country is food secure, that our health systems are working, that our education system is producing the right candidates for the market, because many graduates are coming out of school without any assurance of having a job. So those are the basics we should have looked at first to make sure that the economy is able to sustain itself before we go into what I can say about overambitious projects. They may be good for the future, but for now, I think the government got it wrong.
All right.
Yes.
What do you think Parliament has failed Kenyans in terms of passing some of these bills? The finance bill was in Parliament for a particular time, but they still passed it as is, to the effect that the common mwananchi is feeling the effect. Now, do you think maybe Parliament is missing it out in terms of, legislating policies that will cushion Kenyans, given that it is one of their mandates?
Irene, looking at the current Parliament, you just pity. maybe you pity the members or you pity the people who chose them. Because I think this is among the worst parliament in the Kenyan history. It's the same parliament where the loan ceiling has been raised more than once, and they cannot even call for accountability from the concerned agencies of the government. So, and also you realize the parliament has the biggest say in the budget making process, from the appropriation statements to the reading to the counter checking the appropriation of the budget. So they have all the leeway to pass or reject any government proposals. But this parliament has been more of a rubber stamp, with the MPs just singing to the tune of the executive without question. They don't represent what people need, because if they could be representing what people need, they could have gone to the ground and hear what people want. Is it not that people don't want roads, but what is the relevance of having a road and don't have food? Those are the questions they should be presenting to the executive, and using their powers to veto some of these proposals. I expected, at a minimum, during this pandemic period, to have a parliament that is people responsive. We should have been accelerating a vaccination process currently, because that is the most urgent thing, as we say now. But Parliament passed a budget that places vaccination among the other priorities, which is not really a prudent thing to do. So as you said, yes, I agree 100%. Parliament has failed Kenyans. Right. Parliament has failed the current and the future generation of this country, because it may take even a century to repay some of the loans that Parliament and the executive have approved to.
All right.
So absolutely, Parliament has been a letdown, according to me, and according to many other opinion shapers out there. And the only thing I could ask Kenyans, they should be watching what they're doing collectively, and held each of them individually accountable, because they should not come back.
All right. Okay, it's an opinion on itself.
Yeah,
now,
it's an opinion.
The taxman, looking into the commodities that have been taxed, some have said that maybe they should not have, put the taxes on basic commodities, given that everyone is accessing the basic commodities, whether you're rich or you're poor. Perhaps the taxman, what he targeted in terms of taxing, do you think they might have missed it, given that some of the basic commodities include maize flour, which is each and every homestead? Did they miss it, or there was no way out, given even the debts that we have in the country?
As I said, Irene, we are really in a very difficult situation as a country, and I think people should brace themselves for more stringent times, because we are still not out of the hook yet. I said Corona brought a very complicated situation worldwide. There were no exports, because countries freeze their external expenditure, and also we could not afford to import a lot of things. So the international business almost came to a halt during the pandemic, and also the internal capacity to produce was also lowered, because people could not go to work. You remember the first month of the pandemic, there were lockdowns, there were restrictions of even going to work. People could not work at full capacity. And also the systems were stretched. Yeah. People were just focused on Corona and the effects. That is how to limit the number of infections, and also to limit the number of casualties. So the production capacity of the country currently is at its lowest, I can say. Right. And also remember, many people lost their jobs. People don't have jobs. Yeah. If you don't have a job, you don't have any income. So the amount of people paying taxes, I can say, there is very minimal. And also remember, the president gave some tax reliefs during the pandemic. Yeah. That money was not a grant. It was money from a few individuals or a few reserves that were there. So we have to get that money back and to finance the continuity of the economy. So the only way the government could get that money to keep the economy going is through taxing basic needs. Because also our debt situation is not good. We cannot borrow. The IMF gave us some one of 100 billion, but they gave us also conditions how to use it. So, and the government sometimes does not want to be monitored how to use its money. So the only way out for the government, although very unpopular, is through taxation.
All right.
They have to tax the basic commodities because that is what people use most. It may be unpopular for now, but that's the only way for the government. The only alternative is a collapse. And I don't think many Kenyans could want that. But that boils down to improper planning, as I said before. The government should have anticipated this situation before and reduce its expenditure on development projects. There's no need of having motor or road projects every day when your health system is down. When people cannot afford basic food every day. So I think as much as I don't blame the government for taxing basic needs, the government also failed to plan for this time.
All right.
They should have done better.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, how now then are we supposed to navigate this? Because the law is already in place. The Finance Bill of 2021 is in place. The leaders are not on our side. The taxes are here. Now, how is the common mwananchi supposed to navigate this at a time where majority are unemployed? How then do we get out of this nightmare that is of taxes?
As I said, it's ile time ya kuvumilia kwa Mkenya to some extent, because it may take some time to get used to these new taxes. But I think the government should move with speed and look way to caution the Kenyans from the burden as soon as possible. Because the current taxes are unsustainable, because you cannot quote unquote pickpocket a naked man. Kenyans have no money at all. If you hear stories of every day, people in the matatus, people in the markets, people have no money. So in the short term, the government must look at the way to bring down the prices down in the short run. But also in the long run, we must start looking at how we can put money to more people. Remember, the previous system has been putting more money to few people, so that we have less than 5 million people financing the whole economy, and we are more than 40 million of us. We should look at policies or at systems that can guarantee that at least 3/4 of the country can earn something.
Right.
From there, the government can increase its tax base. We can tax more from more people. Even if we tax small from many people, it's better than taxing proportionally from those who have and those who don't have. So in the long run, I think we should start discussing on how we can change these economic systems so that we start investing more in agriculture, invest more in SMEs, where many people can be employed, Juakali sector, which is contributing a lot to the economy. And if we invest more, I think it can employ so many other people. And also the informal sector, which is sometimes relooked, even in the taxation regimes. Informal sector is never factored in. So we should start looking at all this perspective so that we can have a sustainable economy. Currently, as we are, I don't think we can do well for a long time.
All right.
Yes.
Now, are we seeing the situation getting worse? Because what is before us is possibly a referendum, depending on the outcome. Election is here. COVID-19, we are not yet out of the woods. Are we seeing the situation getting even more worse than it is, or should we be optimistic?
From a humanity side, we are always optimistic. But from the practical side, as a country, we're in a mess, and the government should really realize so. because as you said, Corona is still around, and possibly there are talks of a fourth wave going forward. Maybe you never know; it can get worse, and the government declares another lockdown or something. Where elections are in the horizon in less than a year, and you know what happens during election, the anxiety, business almost come to a standstill. So basically, I can say we are not off the hook.
Okay.
And it will be upon individual Kenyans to work more hard.
All right.
Yeah, so that maybe they feed themselves and wait for God.
All right.
Yes.
Finally, what can be your parting shot concerning the way the economy is in the country, the way the National Treasury is handling what is happening right now, and what Kenyans should expect?
Finally, I can just say I pity the current CS for Treasury, because I think he found himself in a very complicated situation, having to balance between what's happening in the economy and the needs of the people. In many socialist countries, the needs of the people comes first.
Right.
But in ours, in a capitalist country like ours, it may be different. So I call upon policymakers, MPs, the economists, and the government to start looking at the whole perspective of the economy. We must look at sustainability more so that we can have more people earning something. We must start thinking of how to put more money in more people, because in the long run, I think Kenyans will be the one to make their country. So we can only make a country if we empower people to build the country, and that's through creating jobs, having more businesses, encouraging foreign investors to come in the country, and that happens through an effective taxation regime, a corruption-free country. I should have stated that. Kickbacks, where kickbacks are not the order of the day. The government should avoid doing business at all costs, because that is where the corruption starts.
Right.
And I think going forward, these are the discussions we should be having more, so that we can change the perspective of the economy. And I think maybe in the future, we shall do well. But in the short term, let Kenyans brace for more difficult time a bit.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lameck, Orina, for giving us your take concerning the high cost of living here in the country.
Thanks so much.
All right, that is Lameck, Orina, an economist, telling Kenyans to brace for tough times for now, given that the lookout is not for the welfare of Kenyans. We are taking a short break, but we'll be back with more on what is happening in the counties. See you in a moment.